In today's latest news, we talk Manu Kone as reports state that we have made contact with Gladbach over the player's availability in the summer window. That's not only that though, we have to talk about Dujuan, the 17-year-old WonderKid from Jamaica that we have just beaten Newcastle to the signing of. Here's everything you need to learn about our new signing, and to end things, we talk Kovacic as reports state that he is offering his services to AC Milan. Right now, we have a ton of things to break down and discuss. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video because I've had a lot of fun making this one in particular. Two very impressive football players. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hit that like button and hit that like button if you're excited by the signing of Dujuan. Let's get 2k likes and without wasting any more time. So let's start with things and let's talk Manu Kone. Now I know for a few of you guys watching this right now, you're going to be excited by these reports, and that's because Manu Kone has a bit of like a growing cult status at this point in time, and I think that's for very good reason, because Kone for me is like the epitome of elegance and technique in midfield, and I think he's quite unique in terms of his skill set for the role he actually plays in. But before I happily break down his strengths, weaknesses, and give you guys some understanding behind his game, let's start things off and let's talk about the latest news that came out around him. And this report comes from Sport Builder. It suggests that we have made contact with Gladbach over the availability of Kone in the summer window. However, we aren't the only clubs, because Paris Saint-Germain are also in the running to revamp their midfield. I mean, Renato Sanchez has been so poor for them for this season, and after they got easily knocked out against Bayern Munich, they need to revamp their midfield big time, and I think you're not going to do any wrong by going for the under-21 French international in Manu Kone. Now Gladbach understand the level of talent they possess at this point in time. It took them a few seasons just to sign him from Toulon. This is currently his second season here, and he currently has a market valuation of around 25 million euros. But Gladbach, they kind of know they'll have to sell him in the summer, and they're expecting to receive hopefully double his current market valuation. Are stories like this false? I say absolutely not. You know, I've been doing these news videos for a very long time, and I think the one thing you really understand after a while of making content like this is that you get some more insight behind what we're actually looking to do in the market. I think it's quite obvious that we're looking to sign a defensive midfield player of some kind in the summer window. Names like Rice, Casado have naturally come up, and for me it's no surprise that Manu Kone would become part of that list, because as we've seen with this club, you know, we'll spend all that time signing our number one options, number two, and if they fail, you need to have like a contingency plan. You need to have a quality backup plan, and with the market for DMs and ball-winning mids in abundance in the summer window, you know, it only makes sense that someone like a Manu Kone is going to be part of that shortlist. So what I'm basically saying is that with stories like this, forget the player's name, think about the position and role he plays in. That gives you insight behind the type of profiles and players we're actually looking to sign for the team. So now I've given you guys the news, I can finally break down this game and talk about why Manu Kone really excites me. I'm going to start things off a bit bold here, but if I was to give you guys like a very lazy comparison, I would say he's like the defensive version of Kovacic, because these guys are incredibly press resistant, so silky on the ball. You've got a range of like dribbling techniques, you know, very comfortable putting their body in front of their man to shield the ball as well too. Very nimble footed, great low center of gravity. Manu Kone isn't a short player, he's like 6'1", but when you see him play, he doesn't give those vibes that he is that tall. And that tells you everything you need to know about his body balance, you know, that low center of gravity that he possesses. I feel like Manu Kone is like an elite level player in the making. I think the guy defensively is outstanding for his age, but he's also a progressive carrier and a progressive passer as well too. Now, I mentioned the point at the start of this video. His skill set for the role he plays makes him unique. And for me, he plays as a 6, but I see him more as like a ball-winning midfield player. And that's because he has so much quality in his game. He's got like a fantastic engine. He's got, you know, long legs as well too to cover ground quickly. He's got a great reading of the game. I think he's good defensively as well too, and very strong in his duels and in his tackles. That's where he really elevates compared to his contemporaries in the Bundesliga, and that's because he wins a high volume of duels. And I think for a ball-winning midfield player, because you're making tackles higher up the field, because you're expected to counter press right to stop your opposition team from counter-attacking against you, you know, players like this allow you as a team to play higher because you're winning your duels like higher up the field. And I think when you have a player that is already very strong in many defensive aspects of the game, with the bonus of him being like an elite level dribbler as well too, because like his percentiles in the Bundesliga, he's one of the best players in the league already when it comes to his close control and 1v1 ability. I think when you're combining those two factors together, you make like a very fascinating football player. And the last time we've seen a successful duo of like a deep line playmaker alongside a ball winning mid, that was Matic and that was Cesc Fabregas. And I think that you could have an even more technical version of something like that in an Enzo Fernandez and Manu Kone type of pivot. Now I think the guy's dribbling is absolutely fantastic, and a lot of his best creativity actually comes as the result of his dribbling skills. Like for example, most of his progressive passes are going to come from progressive carries, and when you go have someone like a Kone that is going to be helping you dictate the play out from the back, that's going to be the passing outlet for the defenders as well too. You know, it's a massive bonus that this guy is so comfortable in tight areas and so comfortable at dribbling, because dribbling at the highest level it's not an easy thing to do, even though it looks easy. Like, it says a lot about how you're thinking and reading the game. So Manu Kone, in terms of components, has everything you'd want in a potential elite level player in the making. Of course, there are things he can improve upon. One thing that surprised me is that he does have very good long shot accuracy. He could take a few more. You know, he has the opportunity to get a few more goals and assists per season. I think, of course, more tactical work, like for example, when is the best area to counter press? You know, what type of position do you have to be in? Naturally as well too, he could be taking even more license, maybe push forward a little bit more based on his technical ability he has, just to be like a better passing option for teammates, to just keep the flow of moves going. But of course, Gladbach don't play the same way that we play. And maybe sometimes he can play the safe pass a bit too much, or be maybe a bit predictable. Maybe especially in his tackling technique, because obviously at the highest level, you don't want opponents to just like read your entire game and figure out, okay, I know Kone is about to run to me for this challenge, I can quickly just push the ball to my right and anticipate his challenge. You know what I mean? But these are things that can easily be worked upon, and they don't detract from the potential that this kid carries. So yeah, if we're struggling to sign like a proper like ball winning mids, I don't think you're doing anything wrong by targeting Manu Kone. I mean, the guy can be coached and developed to be a fantastic player by the time he's like 24, 25 years old, and I'm expecting him to be a French international player one day. And if he can learn from N'Golo Kante right now, that's just adding to this guy's skill set. So right now, for the second story, let's get the quick news out of the way first, and let's talk Mateo Kovacic. As we've been expecting now for a while, this is set to be Kova's last season at this football club. There have been many reports suggesting that this is something that is simmering behind the scenes. Recently, I've discussed links with him, Pep Guardiola and Man City, and today, reports from Italy suggest that Kova has offered his services to AC Milan. Now recently, AC Milan chiefs in Paolo Maldini and Frederic Massara held interesting personal talks with Kova when AC Milan were playing against Spurs in the Champions League. Now we can't forget that Kova played for Inter Milan years back, so it probably has fond memories of Italy. And if I was to give my personal guess and feeling as well too, maybe this could be a family decision, because I know that Kova has a young family now with his wife, and maybe they may feel like it's time for us to go into an environment where we feel like a lot more content and better in, as you know, you can play the final best years of your career out back in Serie A. So I wouldn't be surprised by something like this. Anyway, Kova currently earns around 3 million a year, and his contract expires in 2024. Currently, Kova's earning around 3 million a season playing for us, and his contract expires in 2024. It's not going to cost Milan too much money to get something done, and of course if the player wants to sign for them, things should be a bit seamless and easier. I mean, there's been great success stories, you know, Tomori, Olivier Giroud. We have a nice relationship with AC Milan, so I wouldn't be surprised if anything like that. But for me, the reality is simply this, you know, Kante is signing a new contract. Enzo Fernandez has arrived. We're looking to sign a top quality defensive midfield player for the summer. Plus we have excellent young options like Kans, guys like Gallagher, guys like Andre Santos, where there's high hopes around this guy's potential and his ability. It does seem like the future doesn't necessarily need Kova, and the fact that there are no contract talks being discussed in the near future means that this is probably the peak time to sell Kova to earn some decent money for him. So let's see what happens with Kova's future, and to end things, we discuss a massive story and who exactly is 17-year-old WonderKid and Dujuan Richards. Now the massive news is we have reached a pre-contract agreement to sign Dujuan Richards from the Phoenix Academy. Now, Dujuan is 17 years old. He's a striker. He can play on the left. He can play on the right hand side as well too. He's known for his goal-scoring exploits back home. And we've spent under €1 million. We've beat Newcastle to his signature. You know, Newcastle held trials with Richards for 2 weeks where he absolutely smacked it. So I'm not surprised that, you know, we decided to sneak in and steal this signing. Now, I have to say that I've watched so much content, seen so many interviews, read so many articles around, you know, Dujuan Richards, Craig Butler, Phoenix Academy, all that good stuff. And I think the information that's out there paints like a really crazy picture in terms of how we got a deal done to sign him in the first place. And I guess to start with things, we have to turn to two Chelsea staff members. Of course, new addition in Joe Shields, who we signed from Southampton, and chief scout Tony White as well too, because as Craig Butler says, you know, the chief executive of the Phoenix Academy back in Jamaica, he had a relationship with Joe Shields even before Joe Shields moved to Man City, as well as having an existing relationship with our current international scout and Tony White. Butler introduced Richards to Joe Shields all the way back then, and these two recently played a part in getting this deal over the line, with Joe Shields personally recommending that we do sign Dujuan Richards and bring him to our academy. So this is massive news. Of course, this is a pre-contract agreement. He's only 17 years old. He doesn't turn 18 till at least November, so don't expect to see him until, of course, for next season. But you'd have to say that this is a massive crowning achievement for the Phoenix Academy, where this is a big breakthrough because, you know, big European clubs like us are now looking towards talents coming out from Jamaica, you know, West Indies and other smaller footballing nations as well too. This gives a massive opportunity for there to be like a level increase now in terms of the talent coming through, and that's because top scouts are paying attention to what's coming out from these countries now. Now, Richards isn't new to playing in Europe. I mean, he's had countless trials. He had trials in Belgium, in Germany, I think for Real Sociedad as well too. He's played in countless type of youth tournaments and competitions in Europe, and that's when he started to make a name for himself due to his goal-scoring exploits. Recently, Richards made his international debut for the Jamaican national team alongside our very own Amari Hutchinson. To be 17 years old playing for your national team is a big thing, regardless for who your national team is or the level of that national team. And, you know, it's really exciting to see what Richards can do here now that he's joining a club, which I keep saying is like the equivalent of like going to like Oxford or Cambridge. You're going to get a phenomenal footballing education. And I think that this is the main reason why Craig Butler's had so much care around Richards and being very protective and giving him the right advice and, you know, put him onto the right people. And, you know, Richards is known as Whispers for a reason. And I think that's because he keeps quiet and he is humble. You know, he wants to learn and he wants to do what's best for his career. I mean, you have components like that working together, anything can happen. So whilst we're on the subject matter, let's talk Craig Butler. Now, he has been seen as a bit of a controversial figure back in Jamaica, and that comes from how outspoken he is in terms of criticizing how footballers run in Jamaica. You know, the infrastructure issues, how is that going to help the top Jamaican football players to go to the next level if the infrastructure in general isn't conducive of supporting their careers? That's led to him doing things like omitting Leon Bailey from being available for the Jamaican national team. But, you know, sometimes if you're a bit of like a visionary and you see what's going wrong, naturally you're going to be expecting there to be a lot of political backlash, right? Because people like the existing way of doing things. You want to introduce a change and something new. The level of support you receive won't be on the same level. So naturally, this is how you end up being portrayed as a controversial figure. Anyway, I've watched a lot of podcasts and interviews. I watched this really good one on this YouTube channel called The Fix, where it was Craig Butler, Dujuan Richards, and the podcast team having a really good conversation behind how this deal worked, you know, issues in Jamaican football, the talent and promise of Dujuan Richards. It was very insightful, and, you know, it's quite cool that through the internet you can just get access to, you know, clips like this and you can form your own opinions from them. Regardless, when you have someone supportive like Dujuan Richards behind you, where, you know, you've been getting specialized coaching because, you know, the coaching level in general isn't of the right level to, you know, really help top potential talents, I think his support is going to help Richards when it comes to conquering himself in Europe. He's ready mentally. He has the right physique. I mean, this is a big guy. I think he's like, what, 6'1" or 6'2". Super explosive. And if I was to give another lazy comparison in this video, I would say in terms of like his game, He reminds me of like a young Adriano. You know, I don't mean in terms of like the exact qualities, but in terms of like, look at his stature, his builds, how he plays, the explosiveness. You know, he's got a rocket of a left foot. I mean, the guy blasts that football. And on top of that, he likes to take his man on 1v1. You know, he's a direct type of forward. This physique he has right now, if he can just like bang out Jim even more, he could be like a very interesting talent to look at in the future. And I think, of course, he's made the right decision coming to like the Oxford and Cambridge of youth football in Cobham. And I think this guy, with our support around him, can have a very interesting career in the future. So you guys, on that note, I'm going to end today's video, wrap things up. I hope you all enjoyed, and share your thoughts and opinions on Manu Kone, Dujuan Richards, and Mateo Kovacic as well too. I'm in the FC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos.